Hello, Gunners, and welcome back to Gunner Pavilion. Before we get into Arsenal, I want to pause for a moment. It's been a deeply sad week in football, as confirmed by Liverpool FC. Diogo Jota and his brother Andre tragically lost their lives in a car crash in Spain. It's heartbreaking news. We talk about tactics, transfers, and rivalries, but moments like this remind us that football is above all else human. And my thoughts, and I'm sure the thoughts of the entire Arsenal family, go out to Jota's loved ones, his teammates, and all the fans grieving this unimaginable loss. Football can bring us such joy, but also moments of deep pain. So, with respect and heavy hearts, let's talk Arsenal. Okay, let's start with some news close to home. This week, Arsenal and Tomiyasu have mutually agreed to part ways. I've got to say, this one hits me. Tomiyasu was always that player you could rely on, left back, right back, centre back, wherever Teta needed him, he just stepped in and did the job. And I always remember that home game against Manchester City. Tomiyasu came on late in that game. He was the one who rose up and won that crucial header from I think it was a pass from it could have been Thomas Partey who made that pass. I can't remember who made the pass, but I do remember he rose up to knock the ball down that Martinelli smashed in. And that gave us a win over City, at a time where we just couldn't get it over City. So that was massive. But sadly, injuries, just robbed him of momentum. It's a real shame because on his day, he was a competent defender, fantastic professional, and I wish him nothing but the best. Arsenal move on, but I'll still have a soft spot for Tomiyasu, and he'll always be welcome back into the Emirates. Now let's talk about the business that Arsenal have done or on the verge of doing. So Kepa Arrizabalaga is now officially an Arsenal player. He's coming in for 5 million. Check out my video on goalkeepers in Arsenal, giving us experience covering goal. Whether he's here to truly challenge Raya or just be insurance, that's the question we'll be asking all season, right? And then there's Martin Zubimendi. The deal seems all but announced. David Austin at the Athletic have both said it's pretty much tied up. He's been spotted in London, probably doing the photo shoots with the Arsenal scarf. And you know how Arsenal like to take their time with the media stuff. So um, around 50 to 55 million is the reported amount for the deal. Zubimendi brings, composure, solid passing, and defensive discipline. So he's 26, right in that Ateta sweet spot. And I have to say, if Partey does leave, which it seems incredibly so, I feel a bit more relaxed knowing that we will have Zubimendi in the middle. Then you've got Norgard. It's also close. Damage from Sky Sports reports a fee around 30 million is being finalized with Brentford. For me, Norgard is a signing for experience. He reminds me of what Jorginho brought to Arsenal, who was a player we kind of scoffed at a little bit. But there were times we are crying out for him to play in the game because we wanted that experience and maturity. So he will come in and he will manage games. He was also a captain and Brentford, and maybe he could cover multiple midfield roles, right? I mean, he's not here for the long term, right? He's not here for the long term, but I mean, that's another discussion. But I want to talk about, one that I've talked about before that really excites everyone, and that is Eberechi Eze. And listen, to be honest, I can picture him in an Arsenal shirt. It's made me start to dream a little bit. Linking up with Odegaard, drifting into those half spaces, maybe swapping with Saka on the wing, dropping into midfield to collect the ball. He is a good footballer. He's a good footballer. Not probably a prolific goal scorer yet. But listen, Thierry Henry wasn't prolific when he arrived from Juventus. And I know that's not blasphemous, to say. But look what he became, right? Sometimes, players hit their peak in the right season and in the right system as well. And I think Arsenal could be that system that makes Eze, just step up to that next stage. He's Premier League proven. He's got creativity and swagger. And at 26, I think he's the right profile for the squad. And I reckon he'll probably fit brilliantly into the Arsenal dressing room as well. Meanwhile, there's still chatter about Rodrigo from Real Madrid. The Spanish press, like Marca, have said Arsenal are interested, but it doesn't feel like there's a serious movement there. That one probably feels like there's a couple of domino effects that might happen. Maybe a little bit like the Ozil deal when Arsenal got him. It took a couple of players to move to then trigger Ozil to become available, surplus to requirements from Madrid, and then we got him as well. So for me, it comes down to this. Rodrigo's got Champions League experience. Eze's got Premier League experience. And the thought of Eze, at the Emirates feels very natural to me, so I can't shake it. But guys, who do you think? Who would you pick, right, between the two? Let's move on to defense, right? Arsenal are still linked with Christian Mosquera from Valencia. According to Team Talk reports, they're looking at around 25 million, which is decent for a player that I believe that lots of people are speaking very highly of. Mosquera is 20 years old and he's already got 80 La Liga appearances. He's good on the ball, and considering Gabriel's recent injury troubles, we definitely need them, especially now that Tomiyasu has left the club. Muscara feels like that Ateta player. He's young, technically, sound, and he can be moldable, right? Ateta can coach him the way that he wants to be coached. But the question is whether we are ready to drop serious money on potential when we might need immediate impact. That hasn't stopped us. But again, it's one of those that might not be at the very, very top of the list of signings. But I think if they can get the deal done, I'm sure that Arsenal will do that. And then, of course, the saga that keeps everybody awake at night, and that's the striker situation. Benjamin Sesko is still on the radar. Fabrizio says that Leipzig wants 55 to 60 million, and there's no breakthrough yet. I wonder whether Arsenal are dragging this out deliberately, right? Saving that big signing for the end of the season. A striker would absolutely excite the fan base. That is the splash, signing. That's the one that you think everyone gets excited about and start thinking about Champions League glory and Premier League glory. But let's not forget, we still got players that there are questions about. Jesus is coming back into the squad as well, coming back from injury. You've got Mikel Merino, who was playing up top as well and scoring goals. Does he move back into the midfield as well? How does that whole midfield shake? So now I'm going to look into that a little bit and offer my thoughts about potentially how Arsenal might set up in the midfield once Zubimendi's signing is announced. I'm torn, right? Because I do want that killer striker up front, but there's a part of me that wonders, how everyone is going to fit into that squad. And Arteta has not been very noted for rotating his players, right? So there are going to be some unhappy players that we might have to deal with. It's a problem, a nice problem to have. It's a balancing act. And if we leave it too late, we risk starting the season really short-handed. And that leads me to something that keeps coming back to me, and I just keep thinking about this. People have said that Arsenal might end up spending as much as Liverpool has spent this window, and that might be true in pounds. But what about time? Look at Liverpool. They've wrapped up major deals early. That means the new players get preseason, they settle in, learn the tactics, find housing, bring their families over. And that matters, right? Because yes, footballers are professionals. They've got agents, they've got staff, who handle the logistics, but they're still human, right? Playing without your family nearby or living out, of a hotel, it does take its toll. And on the pitch, the cost is chemistry. Players arriving late might miss weeks of tactical drills, of understanding how to move off the ball with teammates. A lot of all this positioning that you're not doing outside, on the pitch, but you're actually doing those, on the boards and all the screens and things like that. Then you think back to Thomas Partey. We signed him on deadline, only a few years ago, and it took him weeks to properly integrate. So for me, even if we spend the same as Liverpool, it's not really the same outcome because timing matters and maybe even more than money, guys. So goodness, here's my big question: is Arsenal real risk this summer? Not about money, but about timing, and running out of time, because the fixtures are brutal early on, and the longer we wait, the less time we have for this new faces to gel. For me, I'd rather see us wrap up deals fast, even if it costs a few million extra, because the price of a slow start in this league can be massive. You only just need to look at the team that we'll be competing with. We know Man City are going to go again. They're going to be good. They've brought in signings as well. I know that the Bruyne leaving is a big loss for them, but City has still got Pep. So you expect that they're going to be challenging. Liverpool have only strengthened from a position of strength as well. And then you've got all the other ones who are knocking around the Aston Villa, the Newcastle, the Chelsea. Let's not forget about Chelsea as well. So starting the season and getting those points early on in the season could be massive, right? Especially when teams are not quite settled yet. You want to get in early and bank those points. So I want to hear your thoughts, guys. Are you Team Eze or Team Rodrigo? Do you trust Raya and Kepa as our keepers? Should Arsenal just splash out that money for Sesko and just say, you know what it is? Let's just put the money, let's get it over and done with. And do you think timing matters more than money spent? Drop your thoughts in the comments here on YouTube, and let's keep the conversation going. And guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because as goodness, we just keep looking and waiting for that announcement. Here we go, Romano or David Austin. We always call him the Oracle, talk about an Arsenal signing. But until next time, guys, this is the Gunner Pavilion. Come on, you Gunners.